Hey guys, today I'll be reviewing Dangan Ronpa Academy of Hope and High School Students of Despair, the animation. That took a few takes, as you can probably tell. Anyway, as usual, I take my reviews from the perspective of someone watching the anime without knowledge of the events ahead of where we are. So basically I avoid spoilers of any kind. We start off with a horn sound of despair and move to a stuffed bear that seems to be moving playfully, and he's sending a man bound by rope in a blindfold into the sky in a trademark bear rocket. Hell of a long description, but even just that alone tells you how much of the rules this show is going to bend and how straight up wacky it's going to be. Seems like the dual-colored bear has a penchant for sending people to their deaths in extravagant ways. I really like this opening section for its style, and I found it funny how cartoony the bones were when they clanged in the rocket, and the animation here of our sadistic friend laughing is really smooth. We hear a soft-spoken little dude narrate for us about Hope's Peak Academy while familiar music very similar to the visual novel plays. It might even be the same, actually. I'm having a hard time telling the difference, but I'm glad they decided to use these wonderful pieces of music. In the really short amount of time you have to read this letter, it says our first named character, Naegi, was chosen out of a bunch of normal people to go to Hope's Peak Academy, which is the place where super duper talents go. As soon as he takes even just one step in, though, it seems like he's engulfed by some portal and an iron door shuts, signaling how there's no way out. There's even what looks like freaking machine guns or cameras, or maybe machine gun cameras around the door. So I mean, with the bear, the general style of the show, and the use of terms like super duper when describing how much of a shitty situation you're in, you can tell this is going to have its fair share of goofiness to mingle with the despair. The title card is really cool. I love the style on that. It has a sign of Hope's Peak drenched in blood with the school looming shadily in the background, and our bear friend is just sitting up top there, lording over everything. It'd make a really good wallpaper, in all honesty. Naegi wakes up in a classroom with cameras fixated on him and steel plates on the walls. Adding to this silliness is the kind of giraffe print on the walls. It's almost as if this was an actual classroom where you'd teach kids. If I was the teacher, I would go with leopard print on my walls. Leopards are fucking amazing. Anyway, Naegi tries to break off a steel plate, but all that really does is make his hands look like they've just been confessed to. He spots a pamphlet seemingly from some official figure, but they can't be taking this all that seriously because they call the students "you guys," and they've written in crayon. It tells him he better get his ass to the gym, so he opens the door slowly into an eerie freaking hallway. And in all honesty, I'd prefer hallways like that in the school I go to just because I'm weird and despise blandness. Anyway, he opens the gym door and we get to see all our cast members in their animated glory. I'm sure many people playing the game or reading the Something Awful translation of the game were really waiting for this moment. Right off the bat, though, you can see this is a very diverse cast of characters with every color of the rainbow and more in their hairstyles. Alright, this part's gonna take a bit, just letting you know. We start off with introducing a guy who looks like his hair has been shocked relentlessly by lightning. His name is Yasuhiro Hakagure. Seems friendly enough. He's a super duper high school shaman, though, so that adds a definite twist to his character. Then a giant chipmunk, or human, sorry, gets introduced and his name is Hifumi Yamada. He's a super duper high school doujin writer, or fanzine writer in the translation I read. I don't think I'm ever going to get to say the phrase super duper more in my life than I am now, so I'm going to keep saying the full thing. Kiyotaka Ishimaru barges in with a commanding tone that supplements his rigid eyebrows, and it says he's a super duper high school prefect. If you didn't know what that is, you're not alone, but basically it's someone of a high position. Alright, I'm gonna have to talk pretty fast, guys, so try to keep up with me, or this review is gonna get way too long. Anyway, so, here we go. The girl we saw in magazines a few minutes ago comments and her name is Junko Enoshima, and she's a super duper high school model. I'm not a big fan of the models we have in America because of anorexia and all that, but it seems like her hair weight alone could push her over her anorexia weight and into the weight of a healthy girl. She basically tells Kiyotaka, the eyebrow guy, to fuck off. A really reserved super duper high school programmer asks if Naegi woke up in a classroom, hinting they all had similar arriving circumstances. Her name is Chihiro Fujisaki, and her voice is quite unusual for a girl of any age, really. Did she hit puberty and stop halfway? Celestia Ludenberg appears, and right off the bat you'll either love or hate this character. Her design seems to draw that kind of attention. I happen to like her design, but hey, I'm usually not overtly critical unless something deserves it. She's a super duper high school gambler. That sounds like an amazing occupation, honestly. Imagine if you see her on some poker TV show, you might actually be able to stay awake. For you One Piece fans, you'll hear a very familiar voice actor. Zoro's voice actor is voicing Mondo Owada, and of course he's playing some ruffian. He's a super duper high school biker. This school is interested in some really weird talents. Oh my god, we're still going. Anyway, a red-haired dude who seems polite enough, Leon Kuwada, gets introduced, and he has an actual talent, which is being a super duper high school baseball player. A really jiggly happy girl, Aoi Asahina, cheers up the room, and she seems to be overtly optimistic. She's a super duper high school swimmer. Again, legitimate enough. Not something strange like being a super duper high school shaman. Super duper high school fighter Sakura Ogami gets introduced and is by far the most unusual character out of all the unusual characters. The cream de la cream. From his or her name Sakura, you can already make a bunch of assumptions, most probably that he or she is a she. Sakura is a hilarious name for her in the first place because it reminds you of some gentle pink flower instead of the buff warrior girl like that. She looks like she could murder that biker dude, Mondo Owada. The one who seems like she'd be most against an introduction sequence gets one, and she is Toko Fukawa, a super duper high school bookworm. She seems pretty reclusive and vindictive. I can feel my throat shriveling up already. Alright. Still on the introduction train, here we go. Okay, Byakuya Togami cuts through their interaction with his sharp knife of apathy. He's supposedly a super duper high school scion. Like you, probably, I looked that up, and the definition of a scion we're using here is the descendant of some wealthy family. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel with Kyoko Kirigiri being introduced, and she seems fairly normal if reserved. She's a super duper high school triple question mark, as in we know nothing of her talent. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is the very last one. Super duper high school idol Sayaka Maizuno actually engages in some warm conversation with Naegi, unlike pretty much everyone else. She's either overly polite or she seems to have taken an interest in our protagonist. I think it's the latter. We seem to be getting straight up clones of the music of the game, which is great honestly, and we're getting some new music added here and there, which honestly doesn't touch the level of the game's music, but it's alright. Okay. Everyone's wondering where their stuff went while Byakuya seems to cut through to the point of how they're going to get out of here. We hear a strange voice over a speaker, and it turns out to be the playful murderous bear we saw from the beginning of the episode. He's given a name, Mono Bear, and he's the principal of Hope's Peak Academy. His voice fits pretty well, I gotta admit, childish, obnoxious. He quickly reveals the premise of the show, which is that our cast will be stuck in the school forever unless they kill someone. He then excitedly tells them of the methods of how to kill people. Apparently this thing eats salmon, but that's probably just a joke. And he makes it very clear he derives pleasure from humans being killed, if you didn't already pick that up. Our pompadour biker guy, Mondo Owada, stands up to Mono Bear, and his pompadour nearly hits his face. We learn that our cast is in some deep shit when Mono Bear explodes and another one appears immediately. So this can't be solved by just taking him out. Strangely, we get our opening in the middle of the episode, and I was sad because I thought we weren't going to get one until maybe the second episode. Sometimes that happens. The opening's an instrumental, which is pretty rare these days for anime. It's a nice opening, even if I think the segment with Mono Bear behind the red screen goes on too long. Ogami tries breaking down the steel walls, but alas, it's impossible. Kiyotaka Ishimaru tells everyone not to give in to despair and that they should try to work together to find clues. I'm already liking this guy because I like guys that are all business and can lead people. Byakuya Togami goes off on his own, showing his doubt in human nature. Owada tries to stop him, but ends up punching Naegi instead. Naegi's in with a dangerous punch. By the way, the voice of Maizuno is Kirby. Yep, Kirby the Pink Blob, character of one of the greatest video game franchises ever. She was watching over Naegi while he slept after blacking out. Nice, Naegi. And she was awfully close to him by that bedside. Owada has a cool bro moment with Naegi and apologizes. He's not a total ruffian. When the situations aren't huge in scale, guys can leave things behind with their fists. Everyone talks about how they tried to escape to no avail. One thing they did find out is that they're restricted to the first floor. The fridge is also stocked up, so what Mono Bear said earlier about them living an affluent lifestyle wasn't a lie. Something important here is that Mama Bear showed up and vanished into thin air the moment the fridge was opened. We're obviously dealing with something non-human here, but we definitely don't know the full extent of its powers. Our nihilistic Toko Fuuka tells them everything they did was useless. Does anyone like this character right now? I'm curious. Celestia seems to take delight in pushing her over the edge by telling her the harsh reality of their situation. Celestia seems fairly smart as she realizes adaptation is a hugely important aspect of survival. She proposes the logical rule that nobody is allowed to wander at night, because that's the likeliest time for murders. Aoi Asahina tells everyone that they're going to be rescued, showing that relentless optimism again. And Monobear interrupts by telling them that they're foolish to rely on the cops. He's obviously trying to convince them that murder is the only solution they have to get out of here. Now, some may seem Naegi as a fairly typical protagonist so far, but he's showing some things that aren't quite so normal. For one, he tells Monobear that no one's going to murder anybody in quite a determined way. Everyone heads to the AV room to find out what Monobear's talking about when he says motive. They're shown happy footage followed by the scenes of what looks like murder of their families. At the very least, they don't know what happened to them. Naegi shows again that he's actually pretty awesome and of an adult mind by stopping Mizuno's hysterics. She breaks down into tears on his manly chest while Monobear giggles like a little girl. He uses despair as his fapping material. We get a really cute pixely ending song, and that's it. Listen, I'm not some magical praise-giving machine, but I guess the pacing was a bit rushed at times, but when you're put under time constraints, that stuff happens, just like with this video. They're limited to 13 episodes, so we'll see how they handle the future. They had a lot of introductions to do this episode, so that probably cut into everything else's time. Anyway, I give the first episode of Dangan Ronpa a straight A. I wasn't particularly impressed, but it was very close to the style of the original visual novel. The voice acting and music are both great. The animation is just decent, though. Anyway, I'm ZackstaDaxta, and thank you for watching my review.